Hi, I'm Jasmine from California. Please like and subscribe. I was raised in an orphanage until I was 8 years old, and I never spoke a word. Hi there, sweetie. What's your name? Say something to the nice people, Jasmine. They want to get to know you. It wasn't that I couldn't speak. I was just shy. I didn't have many friends, at least not the type that stood on 2 feet. One day when I was 8, I saw my best friend Furry stuck in a tree. I ran over to the firehouse across the road and banged on the door.
What's wrong?
I dragged the fireman to the tree and he immediately rescued my cat. He was amazing! The next day, I decided to thank him by making him a special meal.
Thank you. You like spaghetti?
After that, the fireman came to visit me every week, and I felt so comfortable that I started to speak. In fact, I couldn't stop talking, and I hated it when we had to say goodbye. One day, the fireman came to visit with the biggest smile.
Jasmine, how would you feel if I was your dad?
And the next morning, I moved in with him. I had my own room, my own fireman's hat, and as much spaghetti as I wanted. We did everything together, and life was good. But in the 7th grade, Dad brought home some guests one day, a beautiful woman and her daughter who was my age.
This is Leslie and her daughter Tiffany. Leslie and I are getting married.
I was happy at the news. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Of course it is. I'm lovely. But it's not a pleasure to meet you. It's worse than that day I ate a whole jar of chilies and pooped fire out of my butt, and also I had to get a tooth extraction and my appendix removed on the same day. And I hate you already.
Soon, Leslie and Dad were married, and we moved into a bigger house. It was beautiful on the outside, but the inside needed work.
It's a disaster. We're not living here. Come on, babe. It just needs a little love.
Over the next few months, Dad and I fixed up the house. By the time we were done, it was perfect. But nothing made those two happy.
What do you think?
Like we're too poor to get a professional interior decorator. We're going to the cat massage place.
Yeah, the cats there give the best head massages. It feels so good when they pull on your hair.
Really? 'Cause I can do that for free. Tiffany glared at me and the two left.
Dad, I don't get it. Leslie is so materialistic and shallow, and Tiffany is even worse. You can do so much better.
Honey, no one's perfect. Leslie and Tiffany just like nice things. What's really important is family. Promise me you'll give them a chance.
I'll try. So I did. Things were better for a few months, but then I started to notice Leslie and Tiffany acting strange. One night, I caught Leslie and Tiffany whispering to each other in the dark till they spotted me.
Go to bed now, or you're grounded for a month.
And you won't be allowed to take a shower or wax your mustache for 3 months.
The next day, Leslie said she wanted to cook dinner for a change. And hours later, Dad had food poisoning. He was released from the hospital the next day, but he was still really weak. Instead of taking care of him, Leslie and Tiffany went out on a shopping spree.
I think Leslie tried to poison you.
Poison me? That's ridiculous.
I don't think so. Those two are hiding something. I just know it.
Jasmine, Leslie's been trying to connect with you for months, but you're always giving her a hard time. You have to accept them as family and stop making up these crazy stories.
A few weeks later, while Dad was out of town, I woke up at night to get some water, but I heard voices coming from the backyard. I looked out the window and saw Leslie and a strange man arguing. Before I could get closer, Tiffany jumped in the way.
You should mind your own business. Who is that man?
What man?
The man you were talking to in the backyard.
Oh, Jasmine, you have such an active imagination. I wasn't talking to anyone. Isn't that right, Tiffany?
Yes, Mommy. Too active of an imagination compared to her small-shaped head. Why is it so small? Did you crack it open like an egg and the doctors forgot to put some pieces back in? You know, back in the orphanage since you were neglected?
I went to my room and tried to call Dad, but my calls went straight to voicemail. In fact, he didn't answer his call for days, and it looked like he was missing. We contacted the police to find out where he could have gone, but he'd vanished without a trace. I felt miserable, but Leslie and Tiffany seemed to go on like it didn't matter one bit. Sometimes I couldn't help thinking if they had something to do with Dad's disappearance. 2 months passed, and one day, Dad's lawyer showed up to talk to me.
Your dad told me that in the case of something ever happening to him, I can tell you about his will.
What will?
Your husband left $1 million in a trust for Jasmine. Half to be released to Jasmine when she turns 18, and the other half to her legal guardian to take care of her.
What about me and my daughter Tiffany?
Yeah, what did we get? I mean, that man had the longest ear hair, and my eyes hurt seeing that, so yeah, I deserve something.
The last time your husband updated his will was when he adopted Jasmine. Here's a check for $500,000 to cover Jasmine's expenses.
Leslie and Tiffany went ballistic. They ripped all of my dad's pictures off the wall. Stop! Don't! Tiffany shoved me out of the way as she and Leslie ran around the house, destroying everything that reminded them of Dad. I grabbed my dad's guitar from his bedroom and hid it under my bed. The next day, Leslie cashed the check. She sold the house and we moved to another city. Leslie made the down payment for a fancy house and car and got new clothes for herself and Tiffany. But the two made me live in the dusty old attic. A few weeks later, Tiffany and I started high school. The moment I stepped on campus, all the kids laughed at me. Leslie had sold all my clothes and gave me only $20 to replace my wardrobe at the secondhand store.
Hey, freak.
Who are you calling a freak, dummy?
Where'd you get your clothes? A dumpster?
My mom took her off the street. It took my mom 3 months to get rid of the lice in her head. Our house kept smelling like gas, because gas is the most effective way to get rid of lice. And it took 3 months. You get what I mean? After a few weeks, I learned to ignore them and focus on my schoolwork. School helped me get my mind off of how much I missed Dad. Then one day, a new boy arrived at school. He was gorgeous, and all the girls, including Tiffany, couldn't stop staring at him. He sat next to me in science class, and when the teacher told us to choose a partner for a project, he turned to me.
Hey, I'm Kyle. You want to be my partner?
You any good at science? I'm gonna need more than a pretty face.
You're funny.
Kyle and I started meeting in the library after school. He was a science nerd just like me. He loved music and was super funny. We turned in our project and got an A. After class, he walked me to my locker.
Jasmine, I really like hanging out with you. I was wondering if you wanted to...
Before he could finish, Tiffany appeared out of nowhere.
Hi, Kyle. How's it going? I was thinking the two of us could go to the movies this weekend.
Actually, I was gonna ask Jasmine.
It's so sweet you've been spending time with Jasmine. Did she tell you about her boyfriend? He's blind and Jasmine is really taking care of him. I mean, two needy people in a relationship? It makes perfect sense. Don't you agree?
Boyfriend? What are you...
It's pretty serious. They've been hot and heavy for 5 dark years. You know, 'cause he's blind.
That night, Tiffany barged into my room.
Don't even think about messing things up with me and MHK.
MHK?
My hot Kyle. Why are you so stupid?
You and Kyle? You're not even his type. You're a liar and...
Say one word to him and I'll destroy your dad's stupid guitar.
From then on, I strapped the guitar to my back and carried it with me everywhere, even in the bathroom.
You're a weirdo.
A couple nights later, I watched from the window as Kyle picked Tiffany up for their date. He glanced up at me and I quickly closed the blinds. Kyle still sat next to me in science class. He tried to joke with me, but I ignored him.
Hey, Jasmine, you want to study later?
That's not a good idea.
Why not?
Please, just leave me alone.
I don't understand. What did I do?
I closed my locker and walked away. Kyle didn't sit next to me or try to talk to me anymore. He and Tiffany seemed to be getting really close, so it was better that I stayed away. A few weeks later, I was walking to class when I heard a huge commotion in the hallway.
It's our 2-month anniversary, and you get me this?
What's wrong? Please, calm down. Everybody's staring at us.
I told you, I wanted a diamond necklace.
I thought you were joking. I can't afford a diamond necklace.
Wait, are you suggesting you're poor? Why did you look rich to me?
You shallow people pretending to be someone you're not.
I'm dumping your poor butt.
A few weeks later, Tiffany found a new rich boyfriend named Matthew, and she was smitten. She even invited him over for dinner one night, and all he did was brag about all the expensive things he owned. Leslie and Tiffany couldn't get enough. One day, I stayed late after school to study in the library. As I was walking down the hall, I heard someone playing guitar. It was the song my dad used to play when I was a kid. I darted toward the sound. From the window, I saw a man. He was tall with short hair like Dad, but I couldn't see his face.
You almost scared me to death.
Sorry, I thought you were someone else. I didn't know you played guitar.
You'd know if you ever talked to me.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have blown you off.
I understand. Tiffany never liked the fact that I was friends with you first. So, are you any good, or do you just carry that thing around as a fashion statement?
I pulled the guitar off my back and started to play. Kyle and I played together, and it was magical. A few days later, we entered a local talent show. We won first prize and took home $1,000. Soon, Kyle and I started playing a weekly gig at a popular venue in town. People came from all over to see us. We became popular in school, and we were making good money. I stashed it all away under a loose floorboard in my room. One day during lunch, Kyle and I were in the cafeteria when Tiffany came up to us.
Hey, rock star. How about we hang out this weekend?
No thanks. Jasmine and I are busy with practice.
Oh my, Kyle, you're so ignorant. Jasmine would die to please me. She won't mind. Actually, I do. We have to work on a new song. Also, why would he want to hang out with you? Fine, whatever. Later that night, Tiffany barged into my room.
You stole my boyfriend.
What boyfriend?
Kyle?
Why are you acting like you have memory loss?
You broke up with Kyle, and we aren't dating.
You won't get away with this.
You took something from me, and now I will too.
Then Tiffany grabbed my father's guitar and smashed it to pieces.
Now we're even.
I charged towards Tiffany, and we got into the biggest fight ever. What's going on here?
She attacked me, Mom. She's crazy. I'm scared, Mommy. Hug me.
She broke my guitar.
She stole my boyfriend, and now she's trying to kill me. Let's get a restraining order against her, Mommy.
Jasmine, you've always been jealous of Tiffany, and now you've gone too far. No more cell phones, no more music, no more anything. I couldn't stay in that house another minute, so I climbed out the window and ran away, and I ended up on Kyle's doorstep. He and his mom were really sympathetic and gave me a room to stay in. But the next morning, when I went home to get my things, the doors were locked and all the furniture was gone. There was no sign of Tiffany and Leslie anywhere. Kyle and I went to talk to the lawyer about my trust fund, but the lawyer's office was boarded up. I asked one of his neighbors where I could find him.
He closed his law firm yesterday and moved away. He didn't leave a forwarding address.
I was devastated. I had no money and nowhere to go.
You can stay with me for as long as you need.
I reported Tiffany and Leslie to the police, and a few weeks later they got back to me.
This woman who calls herself Leslie, she's a con artist. She's gone from state to state conning single men out of their fortunes. You and your father were her latest victims. And this girl, Tiffany, is her niece.
What about the money she stole? Can I get it back?
I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do.
I went back to Kyle's house, but I was too depressed to get out of bed. Then one day, I opened my door and found a new guitar resting outside the door. Then, Kyle and I wrote a song. We posted it online and it went viral. 5 years later, we were world famous. We spent all our time together writing songs, performing on tour, and falling in love. The next summer, we were married and moved to a house on the beach. But a few months later, Tiffany showed up on our doorstep in tears. What are you doing here?
Leslie and her boyfriend skipped town after conning someone and left me behind. They even took my savings. Leslie's my aunt who raised me since I was a kid, and I had no choice but to help her steal money from people. I'm so sorry for what I did to you and your father.
I wanted to turn Tiffany away, but she had nowhere to go. I remembered my father's kind spirit, so I helped her to get back on her feet. Tiffany worked with the police to track down Leslie and her boyfriend, and they were eventually successful. Leslie landed behind bars for years. Some months later on my birthday, Kyle and Tiffany came home with the biggest smiles.
We have a surprise for you.
Tiffany and I discovered a lead on your father a while ago. It was a long shot, so we didn't tell you before, but we found something.
What did you find? Kyle opened the door. Dad?
Yes, honey, it's me. I've missed you so much.
Oh God, me too. Where were you all this time?
I was on a road trip and I was in an accident. I woke up with no memory, only this. I drew this picture every night, but I never knew who I was drawing or if she was even real. I tried to start a new life, but I knew there was something missing. I had a hole in my heart. But then Kyle and Tiffany found me. They showed me videos of you performing our song, and then all my memories came flooding back. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you all these years.
Dad hugged me tight. It was a dream come true.
Hi, I'm Anna from Latvia, and I have a strange story to tell you. But before I get into it, please like and subscribe. I lived with my mom and dad in a small town as an only child, and while my parents took good care of me, I noticed early on that something was wrong with them. For starters, they hardly left the house and barely spoke to each other or to me, unless, of course, I spoke to them first. My home was like a dead, silent library. All my dad did was go through giant folders and papers all day, looking upset. And every night at the same time, Mom would go to the living room window and start whispering to herself. "Mommy, are you okay? What are you whispering?" "Oh, sweetie, I wasn't whispering. Why don't you head to bed? I'll tuck you in." Both my parents refused to tell me what was going on, and Dad would never let me look inside his files. He kept them hidden in his office somewhere I could never find. Luckily, I had a great life at school because I got top grades and enjoyed helping other kids with their studies. But when I turned 15, things got tough there too. An obnoxious girl named Olga transferred to my class. Rumor had it that she'd been expelled from her previous school, and from the moment she arrived, she bothered everyone around her. One time, I was reading in the school courtyard when a baseball hit my head. Olga had thrown it at me. Ow! What was that for? So sorry, dude. I'm playing ball with my imaginary friends, but I'll tell them to be more careful. You are such a weirdo. Ugh, don't you have class or something? Oh, I'm not even supposed to be here. I got suspended. It wasn't my fault, though. I was playing with my lighter, but some moron caught his homework in my fire, and then I left before Olga could finish. She was giving me such a freaking headache. I tried telling my parents about Olga, but as usual, they were no help. There are mean kids at every school. You just have to learn to ignore them. Now go do your homework, Anna. We need some space. You guys always need space. My parents locked themselves in their room that night and refused to come out. And the next day, everything turned upside down. I was sitting in class when I was called to the principal's office, and to my horror, someone had reported me for stealing. The principal had found brand new smartphones and hundreds of euros in my locker. It was so obvious Olga put them there. Do you realize I could have you expelled for this, Anna? But I didn't do it. It was the new girl. Olga, she's framing me. Come on, you know how much trouble she's always getting into. But the principal didn't listen. She ended up suspending me for a week, and it was going on my permanent record, too. Of course there's something you could do. You could talk to my principal or call a lawyer or... Call a lawyer? We don't have the money for that. And you know we're too busy to get in a whole fight with your principal. It's only a few days of suspension. You'll be fine. You mean you're too busy in your rooms all day, sitting next to the window and staring off into space? If you really loved me, you'd fight for me and help me through this. I can't take this anymore. I've reached my limit. I fled to my bedroom before my parents could answer and grabbed a suitcase out of my closet. I needed to get out of my house. I would go anywhere as long as I was away from them. So the next morning, I crept out early with my suitcase and turned off the location services on my phone. But I just found myself walking to school. Then suddenly I had a brilliant idea. I'd heard rumors that there was an attic above the school storage closet, and nobody ever went up there. So when school opened, I snuck into the storage closet when nobody was looking and found a ladder. But when I climbed up, I saw the light was already on, along with a sleeping bag with freaking Olga sitting on it. Oh my God, what are you doing here? I arrived here an hour ago. It's smaller than I'd expect it to be, though. I feel like I'm inside a mousetrap. No. I did not run away from my awful house to be stuck up here with you of all people. Please don't tell me that's a duffel bag. Are you camping up here too? Dude, I'm a great roommate. I like to stay up and blast music, but we can't do that here. So I was thinking you and I could spend all night hunting for rats here and killing them. Oh God, wake me up in 50 years. Of course, Olga started dancing around because she was so excited that we'd be living together, probably so she could ruin my life 24/7. The attic really was the size of a closet, but it did have a bathroom, except there wasn't any shower or running water. Okay, we need to think of some plan. We can't leave the attic during the day because we could get caught. And if we leave at night, we won't be able to get back in because the school will be locked. We have to find a way to get food, water, and go down to the gym bathrooms to shower. I don't know, but I brought snacks. The big thing is, I don't like sharing. So what, you're gonna leave me to starve? Yeah, sorry. I don't feel like sharing my water either, but you can borrow my ointment to cover up that pimple. Don't look at my pimple! I sat there angrily as I watched Olga eat snack bars, chips, and chocolate. The attic was starting to get cold, too. I was just wrapping myself in my sleeping bag when Olga crawled over to me. So, you want to tell me why you're here? You're obviously miserable at home. What's your story, dude? Why should I tell you? You won't share your food with me. Fine, I'll share a little of my food if you tell me why you ran away. In fact, I'll even tell you why I left home. Okay. Well, my parents are weirdos who never talk to each other or me or anyone unless I talk to them first. And sometimes, before I knew it, I told Olga everything about my life, and it felt great to get it off my chest. But before Olga could answer, we heard yelling and sirens outside. We immediately ran to the window and saw about 10 cops with flashlights and a ton of other people, including my parents. Ah, crud. My mom and dad are here along with a search team. I gotta get out of here or I'm toast. Are you crazy? If you leave here, you'll get caught, and then who knows what'll happen? Listen, Anna, the cops are probably gonna investigate the school, including the attic. I'm not going back home. I'm going somewhere else, and you're coming with me. Why do you want me to come with you? Because if I get in trouble, I want someone else to blame. I rolled my eyes hearing that, but for some reason, I hated the idea of Olga going alone and not knowing what could happen to her, so I agreed. We heard the search team coming inside, so we hid our luggage in the storage closet and crawled into one of the lockers. You're so comfy, Anna, like a giant beanbag pillow. Is that your way of saying I'm fat? Then, at that second, the search team walked close to the lockers and we held our breaths. Anna and Olga definitely aren't at this school, but don't worry, we won't stop searching until we find them. We have to. I wonder what trouble Olga's gotten herself into this time. What did I ever do to deserve this? Why is this happening to us again? Sweetheart, don't worry. We're not going to lose Anna. What happened last time won't happen again. The search team left shortly after that, but I was numb with shock and confusion. We don't have to leave the attic. These cops are idiots. What did my parents mean when they said this can't happen to them again? I mean, I've always wondered why they are the way that they are, and it's so obvious they're full of secrets, but that was weird, even for them. Well, it's not like you can do much about it. But I want to do something about it, like an investigation or something. At that moment, I told Olga all about the files Dad always looked at that I'd never been able to get my hands on, and how I needed to try and find them again. Once I find out what they've been hiding and I confront them about it, maybe I can move back home. It's 1:55 a.m. It should be safe for us to leave now. Please? Olga agreed to come with me, but there was one problem. Neither of us had a mask or anything to cover ourselves with, and we could only think of one option. This was the stupidest idea ever. It's gonna take forever to walk to my house. Wrong. I'm a genius for thinking of this. This is what ninjas wear when they go out in pairs. No, Olga, that's not a thing. Just stay quiet and stop pushing me. My parents always locked our doors, so Olga and I had to crawl in through the dog door. Then, suddenly, I spotted Dad's open files on the table that he'd left out, and his journal was out too. I couldn't believe my luck. I opened the folders to find records of a kid named Bruno, who was born 3 years before me and had my same last name. Psst, Anna. Check out your dad's journal. It has a picture of this Bruno kid when he was like 2. Whoa! Bruno, my beloved son, giving you up was my biggest regret. So I had an older brother somewhere that my parents had been grieving for. I took Dad's folders and journal, and 4 hours later, I was back with Olga in the school attic. We searched up Bruno online, but when the results came up, Olga gasped. Holy crud! That's my ex-boyfriend! And well, he may or may not be a criminal. Wait, what? My brother's a criminal? You mean he's like you? He's been arrested and stuff? Only one time. All the crooks and gangsters in town kinda know each other and go out for pizza on the weekends. Or steal it. I can't believe this. Why would he be a crook? I don't know, we only dated for 2 weeks. But maybe his parents are like my parents. Maybe they're jerks and love his younger sisters more than him, so he'd rather live in an attic than be near them. Okay, fine. I'm talking about my parents. It was so clear Olga was miserable at home, and suddenly I felt sorry for her. And if Bruno had a life like that too, it was all the more reason to find him. Luckily, Olga remembered where Bruno lived, but our only option was to take the bus during the day, with hoodies as our only disguise. Man, there were posters of us everywhere, and still no one's recognized us or asked for our autograph. We're not celebrities, Olga. When we arrived at Bruno's house, I was surprised to see he lived in a mansion, and when he opened the door, he was dressed in a suit. Olga, is that you? Yes, Bruno, it's me. But I'm not here to get back together, babe. It's time you get over me. No, I mean, you've been missing for days, and the whole town is looking for you and this other girl, who I think is you? What are you both doing here? I don't know how to say this, but Bruno, I'm your sister. My parents gave you up for adoption before I was born and have regretted it ever since. So, are you okay here? Is it true you got arrested and committed crimes and stuff? Bruno stared at me shocked as I handed him Dad's records. But before he could say anything, I heard sirens behind us, and it was the search team, along with mine and Olga's parents. Mom and Dad hugged me. Sweetheart, thank God you're alive. How could you do this to us? I shouldn't have run away, but I was unhappy at home and hated that you guys neglected me. I knew something was wrong, though, which is why I did a little digging and went to find your son Bruno. My parents were totally silent as Bruno walked up to us with Dad's folders. Bruno, sweetie, is that really you? Yeah, it is. Well, now I know where my folders went. Sweetheart, your mother and I gave you up for adoption when you were 2 years old because we couldn't afford to take care of you. But then we got better jobs and wanted to take you back. We just couldn't tear you apart from your new family. You seemed so happy, and we knew you were in good hands. To my surprise, Bruno teared up and invited us inside for a cup of tea to have a talk. I'm glad and shocked that the 4 of us are here now together. And Anna, it means a lot that you came looking for me. I do have a good life, and my adopted family loves me. I did get involved with a bad crowd and got arrested once when I dated Olga. Wow. Honey, we're really happy to hear that. Will you at least keep in touch with us? Yes, I'm still mad at you. I always wondered why my real parents abandoned me. Was I not worth it? But I also understand life might be hard, and it pushes us to make some very bad decisions. The bright side is that I got adopted by a great family. I think I'll forgive you guys eventually. But first, you need to give the proper love and attention to the daughter you already have. You were so busy mourning me that you almost lost Anna. My parents instantly promised they loved me and wouldn't take me for granted anymore. The 4 of us hugged, and me and my mom wouldn't stop crying. Then suddenly, Olga burst into the kitchen and sat on the table. I decided to go back home with my parents, but I made them promise to give me ice cream for breakfast every day for the next month, and to tell my sisters I'm the favorite daughter. That's all I really wanted, really. That's great, Olga. So, are we friends now? Or are you gonna torture me again when we get back to school? Of course I'm gonna torture you, silly. I torture the people I love.